as a precaution. Instructions for purifying water by boiling are available in the SCDHEC, or the South Carolina DHEC website. That's at www.scdhec.gov, and you'll find from there, but it's /disaster-preparedness-boil water, or boil-water-emergencies. The way that you purify water to make sure that it's safe is you bring this water to a rolling boil and keep it there for at least 1 minute, then let it cool before using. Stop using appliances and equipment that use drinkable water, such as dishwashers, ice makers, tea brewers, and coffee makers. Use disposable paper, plastic or foam plates, cups, forks. Prepare food using water that has been boiled. Please prepare your food with water that has already been boiled. Wash hands with water that has been boiled and cooled. Wash, rinse, and sanitize pots, pans, and other equipment with water that has been boiled and cooled. Brush your teeth with either boiled or bottled water. Due to the 24-inch water main break at the Rock Hill Water Filter Plant on Cherry Road, we ask York County and municipal water customers, including City of Rock Hill customers, to reduce water use as much as possible. The break has resulted in low water pressure and in some cases no water for customers. Additional information will be provided as it becomes available. It's going to take us a little while to get it all fixed and working, but Jimmy's going to answer it, and Jimmy Bagley will answer your questions as we go forward. It is going to be a process, but we'll work through this. There's plenty of water in the Catawba River. It's just a matter of how we get it in, get it cleaned properly, and get it back out to our folks, okay? But I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy now.
Well, the mayor's pretty much spelled out the situation. We do anticipate being able to make the repairs sometime during the night. The plant is in the process of shutting down now, which means it'll have to go through a rechlorination process. So the water that you're seeing coming out on Cherry Road now will cease shortly. At that point in time, we'll be able to make the repair. They'll be working on it probably most of the night, trying to fix the pipe and then repair the hole, and then rechlorinating the plant and getting it back online. Because most of the tanks were low in pressure, low in elevation, we will continue this boiling notice until we're able to repressurize the system. Tomorrow, it'll take some time to build that pressure back, and at the same time, we'll have to flush a lot of hydrants to make sure that the water in the lines is clean water. It'll probably muddy, discolored for a while just because of all the sediment that's been stirred up because of the break. So we've asked that the schools consider not opening tomorrow, as well as any businesses that are not necessarily necessary for purposes. So anyone that's using a lot of water, we ask that they'll reduce that to give the system time to build back up. Since it is a county-wide system, it is going to take time to get everything back to where it was before the break this afternoon. I'll be glad to.
Customers are served by the plant?
Probably a little over 100,000, 125,000 people. That's a good many in York County, and then some of the surrounding areas as well.
Do you have any information at this point as to how this happened? Was it connected to the construction that's going on there at the plant?
No, it doesn't appear to be. Most of the construction is in the back of the plant right now as it's expanding. This was one that happened in the ground in the front of the plant, so nobody was expecting it or looking for it. The first reports came in because of mud that was out in the street, and we thought and hoped that it was a smaller leak, but obviously as it continued, we lost about 6 million gallons in a couple hours. So the plant was producing 32 million gallons an hour, 32 million gallons a day when we started shutting it down. So in a matter of hours, it's a good bit of water.
I know Rock Hill provides water to surrounding counties. How is it affecting them?
Yeah, this would affect all of us, York County, Tigakay, Fort Mill, the Catawba Indian Nation, folks up near Lake Wiley, so it's pretty much the entire county area.
Can you elaborate just a little bit on that? Because it's the City of Rock Hill holding the press conference, so to make sure people in Fort Mill, in those areas, take note and they don't have any confusion about where their water actually comes from, just dig a little deeper into that.
There are a few private systems in the area, so there are some community wells and what I would consider public systems that serve smaller communities that do have groundwater systems that may not necessarily be impacted. Most of those have backup connections to us, but we're not necessarily their primary connection. So those may not be affected. Certainly I would suggest that they consider reducing it. What I've been telling folks, if you're not sure, but if you've had any sort of water pressure problems in the last hour or two, then you're probably somehow connected to our system. So if anybody's had discolored water or low pressure, then your system, even though it may not be directly with Rock Hill, may be through 2 or 3 other providers, but there's a chance it's interconnected, and you're seeing some of the results from that. So certainly if you have low pressure, I would consider a boiling. Even if you don't think you're connected to the city, that would be the safest way. What happens when the water pressure gets below 20 pounds, somewhere in the 10 to 15 pound range? We ask you to do that because you're not sure what contaminants may have entered into the system at that point. As long as it's positive pressure, we should be okay, but just on the safe side, we go ahead and start asking people to boil just in case.
And you asked schools to close for tomorrow, so what kind of time frame are you guys thinking this could be?
Well, we think we'll have the system back up sometime tonight, but it's going to take a while to build the pressure. I mean, we lost all the water tanks, really, for all of Rock Hill, TK, Fort Mill. So we probably have about 10, 12 million gallons of water in elevator storage that's been depleted. It's going to take a little bit of time to fix that, not to mention re-energize the lines with water. So not having the schools and other large corporations that can keep people home would certainly help, because that's just a reduction on the amount of water being used. The more that's being used, it's just going to take longer to recover. So hopefully we'll recover sometime in the night, and then throughout tomorrow we'll be flushing the lines, trying to rechlorinate and get everything back to safe drinking water standards. We did send out a notice this afternoon twice, as a matter of fact, using the county's reverse 911 system. The first was just alerting everyone to conserve because of the break. The second was letting them know that the pressures were dropping to a point that we wanted to go ahead and notify from a safety standpoint to boil water. We'll continue to use that throughout the evening if we need to send out a mass notice as well. So folks that have signed up either on the email, texting, or the phone calls would have received that through the county's 911 system. And we'll do that again.
You said 6 million gallons lost, you meant from the plant, but then you said 10 to 12 million. Can you explain the difference?
Yeah, well, we lost 6 million in our elevated storage, but the plant continued to produce even during that time. So we've probably produced about 12 million, including what we lost in the elevated storage that wasn't usable. It just went out in the street.
So about 12 million total is what we're looking at.
So far, yes.
We do have agreements with the communities around Rock Hill as it relates to fire service, so we don't have to worry about that. We'll make sure that we get our water into town if there is an event. We have very good relationships with the county and other municipalities, so all that's worked out, and we're properly protected for anything like that as well.
Right.
Have you had a situation like this, we've had to shut down this main plant because of something of this nature?
We've not. I've been here 30 years. This is the first I've experienced this. During Hugo, we did start running into some lower pressures in parts of town where we did let folks know that they needed to try to conserve while we were able to get the power back on. It was more of a power issue than it was a water break. But this is the first that we've experienced that we've had a loss in the plant that we weren't able to stop it immediately.
How old is the pipe that broke?
I'm not sure yet until we are able to really get into there and start repairing it. Most of that plant's been refurbished. We are constantly upgrading it. As you know, it's going through an expansion now to add an additional 12 million gallons a day. But that pipe out front, I imagine, is not that old.
What are the biggest safety concerns from the city standpoint so far?
The biggest safety concerns would be fire protection. So we've notified all the fire departments to make sure that they have full trucks. We're working with Charlotte as well, so if someone needs to fill up and our system's not able to provide it, certainly they can go to Charlotte and work with us on that. That would be the most primary. The other, of course, is just personal hygiene safety, making sure that the hospital and other places that have folks that can't leave are able to flush toilets and have as much water as they can. So we're working with them to bring in tanker trucks, making sure that they have as much as they can. After that, it's really going to be a matter of just convenience, I guess, to have running water. But throughout the night, we'll continue to work. Once we have the system back, we will do remote testing as well as testing in the plant, just to make sure we're meeting all the safety standards. And again, as soon as we feel that the system's back in operation as it should be, we'll send out a notice to let everybody that the no boil requirements will be lifted at that point.
Is Terry Road open?
Portions of Cherry Road is up, and they're trying to finalize the innermost lane, so that it should be shortly.
And not to be redundant, but just so people are clear, bringing water to a rolling boil is enough, or does it need to boil for a specific amount of time?
It does need to boil for about 1 minute, just to make sure that any of the contaminants that may have entered the system are taken care of with the boil.
I apologize if I missed this, but if folks aren't able to boil their water for whatever reason, can they go somewhere to get fresh clean water?
We're working on that. We'll release more information as that becomes available. Most of the tanker trucks that you have are not really drinking water quality, like fire trucks, and most of those are not what I'd call potable. So you have the emergency departments, like the governor's office, that can bring those in, and we're working to see if that's something that might be available later.
I just got a message while I was sitting here from Rock Hill School, since I'm still a kid in school, saying that they've canceled all evening activities and athletic activities tonight, but didn't mention anything about tomorrow. Do you know if the school system has said they're gonna shut down tomorrow?
We have made that recommendation. Certainly, they have to go through their own process to determine through the different districts what they need to do. But I would imagine they would at this point.
Bathing, can people bathe with the regular water, or does it need to be boiled?
No, you can certainly bathe with it. I wouldn't brush my teeth with it.
But don't do that in the next 6 hours.
But, right, try not to use any water that you don't have to, right, for the next 6 hours until we can start getting the pressures back. Other questions? Yes, sir.
In the future, in the past, present, will this ever be, never happen again, or will it exist to happen another time? Y'all be turning God like y'all did before, or will the problem be existed from now to the past into the future? What I'm saying is, will it happen as it's over with, or will it keep going on, stay like it should?
Well, it's the first time that it's happened in the 100 years we've been in the water business.
Okay.
So I'd like to say it's not going to ever happen again, but never's a long time. But we'll certainly start looking at other precautions. We've talked to Charlotte in the past about making connections for the same reasons that they've asked us. It's just really expensive to run major lines to connect, hundreds of millions of dollars. But we'll certainly consider what are the other options that we might can do in the future. But fortunately, it hasn't happened in the past, and I hope it doesn't in the future.
One more quick question.
Yes, sir.
Construction out on that Cherry Road area, that didn't have anything to do with this, or it's just a malfunction?
As far as we know right now, it didn't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
For lack of a better term, what does like cleanup look like in the next few days? Like, what will it take to get everything just action on it?
Once we make the repair, obviously, there's a huge void around this pipe. If you noticed all the mud in the parking lot and down the street. So we've already put some concrete companies on notice that we need to try to backfill it and some dirt to haul in. So it's going to probably take throughout the night. Once we get that line, we can't just leave it exposed. We'll have to put some cover around it so it doesn't blow out again. Once that happens throughout the night, then the rest of the recovery, a lot of it's cosmetic, but the majority of it hopefully will be done in the next 12 hours.
Mention we're closing all our facilities at 5 o'clock.
Right. As the mayor mentioned earlier, and we heard previously with the school district closing most of their activities this evening, the city is shutting down all of their recreational activities after 5 o'clock as well, mainly because we don't have restrooms and facilities. So any city published programs this evening will be canceled after 5 o'clock today as well.
Any other questions? We'll provide updates as we have them, and certainly we'll do that through Katie and her office as we always do. But thank you all for coming out.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Factor to say it affects the entire city, because obviously, we live just outside the city, on Museum Road, and it affects us too.